1, 2, 1, 2. Microphone on, camera on. There we go. Hey everybody, and welcome to Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit on this Sunday, the 20 blah 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 of February, New Year of our Lord 2023. It's a lovely sunny day outside, and I thought I would take a quick half hour to come out to the studio and hit the latest of the Northern Ireland Protocol, because it looks like a deal is imminent, although we have been hearing this for ages, haven't we? It feels like this imminent Northern Ireland Protocol deal is ever thus and doesn't seem to want to go away ever. It's kind of getting a bit boring if it wasn't so serious. Of course, tensions are rising among certain people. There was a police officer shot in Umma the other day. I'm not going to talk about that, just mention it. This is what happens when you have political instability, when we should be running our own affairs, looking after our own country, taking care of our own people. And then you've got political agitators, of which there are plenty. And sadly, very sadly, and unnecessarily, that poor man is now fighting for his life in a hospital. And I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for everybody for that. It's terrible. So, but I'm not going to talk about it because it's too serious for me to comment on. So we'll move on. So the Northern Ireland Protocol, the latest information, as in, like, literally as of right now, it is the 26th of February, 10 to 5 on a Sunday afternoon, and I pulled all this information up within the past hour. So it is quite recent. So a couple of things just to bring us up to the latest update. Oh, but you follow me on YouTube, follow me on Twitter, Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit. And if you want to, you can lend me your support at Patreon for £1 a month. Practically nothing. Why wouldn't you? So there's Nigel Dodds. He was interviewed by this publication. I think it's a Spanish one or an Italian one, I'm not sure. And it's just show you the headline there. DUP's Nigel Dodds warns all. Northern Ireland is colonised by the EU, and that is intolerable for every unionist. Presented without a hint of irony. Literally without a hint of irony. The man says that and doesn't does he realise what he said? Does he get what he said? I have a pint of Guinness here when we by the way, so we'll have a wee sip. Lovely. And my voice is all fried because I was gigging with the Bonnevilles in France just back last night. It was midnight really by the time I got back. We played a fantastic show in a place called Songy Quoi was Songy Quoi la Vie, yeah, that was it. St. Giles Cross of Life, the village was called, the town was called. Very beautiful, great venue, great thing. Anyway, that's why my voice is a wee bit fuckedy uppy. So onwards. So I found this Twitter thread by this dude here called Michael Dugan. So who's Michael Dugan? Let me show you there on the screen. I'll read it out to you, those of you that are listening to this, which is most of you. He's a professor of European Law, University of Liverpool, joint editor of the Common Market Law Review, second violin in the Liverpool Mozart Orchestra. Fair play to you, Michael. So this is an English academic's Twitter thread on the Northern Ireland Protocol and what it means and why it's going to happen and all that stuff. So let me just read it out to you. It's good. It's quite detailed, bullet pointy, but good. It's tedious having to repeat ourselves every time the protocol on Northern Ireland hits the UK headlines. But the bottomless pit of Brexit dishonesty and incompetence makes the task unavoidable. So here are a few bullet points, reminding us how to refute common ERG stroke DUP lies. Right. So let's do it. Let's do it. Because we have to do it. Brexit means borders, inherent and inescapable. And after all, borders are what the Brexitists wanted. But in the case of Northern Ireland, that border cannot be across the land with Ireland. So it has to be across the sea with GB. The only question is, how visible and cumbersome will that sea border be? Turn my mic up a little bit. If the UK had chosen a soft Brexit, continued in brackets, continued membership of the Customs Union and Single Market, the Northern Ireland GB border could have been minimal. But the ERG and the DUP supported hard Brexit, the extreme dislocation between the EU and the UK, which inevitably meant the Northern Ireland GB border needs to be far more complicated. And I'm going to play you a little video from a lady who phoned in to the James O'Brien show, kind of went viral during the week, explaining just how complicated and the implications of the complications are for real people in real life and not in some fantasy Tory fucking Teletubby land. So, onwards with the thread. The Northern Ireland GB border needs to be far more complicated, and that is what the protocol delivered. No border across the island of Ireland. The border is instead between Northern Ireland and GB. That is a choice entirely attributable to the Johnson government, actively supported by the ERG and also by the DUP, until they realised they'd been conned by their Tory chums. And God knows we all tried to warn them, didn't we? Every one of us. I was blue in the face. I must have done 10 podcasts in a row. And in every one of them I talked about that and said, why can you not see what's happening here? Everybody else can see it. You're going to get ripped. You're going to get betrayed. We know you're getting betrayed. I did a podcast, went right back into the history with right back into partition. Why partition and how, right? So if a fucking half-foot like me can see that coming, the brain boxes of the DUP can't. But they can. They can though, can't they? That's the thing. It's all bollocks. They're pretending. They're all offended as if this thing's coming out of left field and there was no way of seeing. You saw. I saw. Why did they not see? Why are they uniquely incapable of seeing what everybody else, the dogs in the street, know? How come they can't and we can? I submit, my lord, that they do. They know full well, and they're just playing political games. They don't care. They don't care about their own people. They don't care about you, me, or anybody else. All they care about is themselves, their own personal status, as in Jeffrey Donaldson doesn't care about the voters in Dromore and the voters in Lagan Valley. He literally only cares about himself, and the rest of them are all the same. So, back to the thread. Johnson may consistently lie about and deny responsibility for his own protocol. Tory government has never properly complied with its own legally binding duties. On contrary, has repeatedly sought unilaterally to dismantle its own deal. But that changes nothing. They made it and own it. 5. Excuse me. The ERG DUP say the protocol is disrupting trade between Northern Ireland and GB. Of course it does. That's the whole point of Brexit and the protocol. Did they ever seriously believe the extremist policies would have no consequences either for the EU-UK relationships or relations between Northern Ireland and GB? ERG DUP say the protocol will keep Northern Ireland in the EU. Rubbish. Northern Ireland left the EU. Now remember, this guy's a lawyer, so, right? Northern Ireland left the EU with the rest of the UK against the will of a clear majority of its population. Despite sloppy coverage, Northern Ireland isn't even kept in the single market. The protocol covers only trade in goods, not services, establishment, capital, or people. ERG-DUP, now this is the arguments that we're getting into, so we can fire this stuff back. ERG-DUP say the protocol makes Northern Ireland subject to foreign law. The protocol is an international agreement. It does not and cannot apply to Northern Ireland directly. What applies to Northern Ireland are the rules enacted into UK law by the UK Parliament. So certain EU rules apply in Northern Ireland. That's because the UK law says so. Right? Right? Can I show you again the Nigel Dodds headline? Nigel Dodds warns all Northern Ireland is colonised by the EU and that's intolerable for every unionist. Michael Dugan says here, if certain EU rules apply, it's because the UK law says so. Right? So there's a clear agenda in what Dodds and his like are saying. They have an agenda and they have all my life, all of your life, these people, all they've ever done is start fires. They never try to put any out. Just start them. That's all it is. This is how they make their living. I do genuinely believe it's literally down to that with these fuckers. They don't care. They are traitors, like. I believe that. Despite the fact that they wave flags about, our Union Jack eating and fucking half-wits, I think they're traitors. I do believe that they are traitors. Because what is treason? The betrayal of your country. What is your country? The country's the people. You betray the people, you're a traitor. Right. The ERG-DUP said the protocol is anti-democratic because Northern Ireland has no say over it. They imposed Brexit on Northern Ireland against its will, claimed right to do so because it's the UK Parliament that is sovereign and democratic. Okay, well, that same UK Parliament approved and implemented your protocol. Do you see how they're tying themselves in knots with this shit? Number 9. But in any case, Northern Ireland does have say over protocol. Assembly gets to vote periodically on whether to keep it or abandon it. So Northern Ireland has a clear and direct voice over the protocol's future. ERG-DUP's real problem, clear majority in Northern Ireland want to... I'm having a bit of trouble speaking because my voice is completely fried. So I'm trying extra to enunciate properly. Clear majority in Northern Ireland want to keep it, but it's only democracy if the DUP agree. And by God, we know that here, right? Number 10, the ERG-DUP said Northern Ireland cannot be treated differently from the rest of the UK. Northern Ireland has always been treated differently from the rest of the UK. Devolution in UK is all about South West Northern Ireland being treated differently. Southwest. Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland being treated differently. And Brexitists claimed one of the big prizes of leaving the EU was to boost those differences even more, which was true. Number 11. The UK has already enacted legislation, UK Internal Market Act, to manage trade differences between England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, created by divergent rules across 4 territories. Protocol only makes the Northern Ireland situation more different in practice, but not in principle. So frankly, when the ERG-DUP attack the protocol, at best they are attacking their own Brexit, since much of what they complain about are the inherent consequences of their own choices, and at worst, they are manufacturing problems for ulterior political reasons at poor Northern Ireland's expense. 13. Does that mean the protocol is perfect? No, of course not. Every rational actor agrees there are problems to solve and improvements to make, but the ERG DUP have nothing constructive to contribute. Their so-called tests are designed to fail, and they offer no credible alternative solutions. So don't give these charlatans an inch. Challenge every lie they say. Don't let their poison be left to fester. It's tedious, it's repetitive, it's depressing, especially since the mainstream media can't seem to do it properly, and by God, can they not? But we have no choice. Post-truth populists endanger our society. Hear, hear, and I could not fucking agree more. He's 100% right. I, much like yourself, I'm fucking fed up with hearing these people getting away with their lies, unchallenged by some of the best paid journalists in the country. It's breathtaking. They wanted this. All the warnings that people like you and me and everybody else were saying, listen, we can see a problem here coming down the pike. Could we address this? Could we deal with this now? What you could call a Ramona or, like we're... In some cases, you didn't get called a believer, like we're supposed to believe, like it's some sort of a fucking cult. It's definitely a C. Sounds like cult. Right. So that's that. So that's good. That's a good thread, right? Isn't it? Him explaining just exactly those bullet points. They wanted this. They asked for this. They got this. They got it against the will of the democratic wishes of the people of the north of Ireland. European law is not European law, it's British law. It's European requirements that the UK law has passed. So the UK Parliament's quite happy to pass the law, to make it law. The European Union is a single market. They protect their market. They say, if you want to trade goods, and it's only goods, it's not everything else. If you want to trade your goods into this territory, you have to comply with these standards. And because of the unique situation, because of the border between Great Britain and the Republic of Ireland, which is the English border in Britain in the north, the British border in Britain in the north, we have a special situation, a special circumstance, and we have to play the game. It's just the way it is. Or you don't. Or you live in a fucking third world Protestant ethno-state bubble like these fucking lunatics want. Make no mistake, that's what they want. And I oppose that as strongly as I would oppose the Catholic alternative in the south, such as it was for maybe a few decades, but nowhere near as extreme. I would posit. But anyway, so here's an article. This is literally today. It's from the RTE. Announcement on the Northern Ireland Protocol deal, progress expected. And this is by Sandra Hurley, who might be a relative of mine. My mother's name was Hurley. So here it is. The government expects a headline announcement about progress on a deal between the European Union and the UK on the Northern Ireland Protocol in the next hour. It is understood. So. As I'm talking, this could have happened. Further we're going to have a wee look because I'm going to do a Twitter search, to see if anything has changed. Further details on the contents of the deal are expected to fall tomorrow or early next week. Tánaiste Micheál Martin said very significant progress has been made in negotiations to agree a deal on the protocol, adding that the will is there to get the deal over the line in a quicker timeline than a medium-term timeline. So, that's fast. The negotiation team said should be given space to do. Okay. Our objective collectively is to have a deal and have the assembly restored in Northern Ireland. Asked if the deal on the table would satisfy the concerns of the DUP and get them to a point where they would re-establish power sharing in the north. He said, I would hope so. We've listened to all parties, blah, 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 blah. It will not. It doesn't matter what they offer. They could offer the DUP everything they asked for with wrapped up in a ribbon, and they wouldn't satisfy the DUP. We know this. So, James O'Brien, as I mentioned a moment ago, James O'Brien, this is an actual phone call somebody made into his LBC radio show. And it's Northern Irish dairy farmer tells Mr. James about her anxiety, about what's going on. She explains it perfectly. So, for those of you who don't get it, this is what you're talking about. This is about the livelihoods. Now, there's all the rest of us that aren't dairy farmers, that aren't trading dairy products between north and south, which is the most of us. But this is her reality, and for the rest of us that don't have these specific concerns, we have our own other concerns, which are just as important to us all. So let's have a listen. This is pretty good, actually, I think.
The insecurity is horrendous. We just don't know whether we're going to be out of business in a year's time or whether we'll have a farm still in a year's time.
Jeez.
So our milk has to cross the border for processing, along with another 800 million litres every year. So
Into the Republic?
Yes.
Yes.
Northern Ireland doesn't have enough processing capacity for all the milk produced in Northern Ireland. So if we lost our single market access and couldn't send our milk across the border, at least a third of it would be not collected from the farms. It would have to be disposed of, which would be an environmental catastrophe as well as a financial hit.
Yes.
So we need that single market access. Now, I see all the unionist bloggers and anti-protocol people on Twitter this last couple of days especially saying, but why can't we have UK rules for people who don't want to send it south and EU rules for people who do? But the Dairy Council in Northern Ireland has spelt out really clearly why that won't work. Because we need a vet in the Northern Ireland has to certify that the milk that is going to the Republic has been produced to EU standards.
Yes, of course they do. So we're back to
Republic then.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so and it's not done by load at the moment. It's a sort of once a month thing. The paperwork is all done, but they can sign up to that because they know at the moment it's been produced to EU standards.
Well, it's regulatory alignment. It's regulatory alignment. I mean, it's that dread phrase.
Yeah.
I don't think it actually appears specifically in the Good Friday Agreement, but it is between every line. You need it. You need it.
Absolutely need regulatory alignment and. They're not the only ones. I used to think that they talked about the dairy a lot because it's a really easy one to visualise, a milk tanker crossing the border and then the butter being made and then the butter coming back across to be sold in Northern Ireland and this is what happens. But it's not. It's actually a really big industry too. So but not to be selfish about it. There are many other businesses that would be.
You're not being
affected.
selfish. You're simply speaking from your own perspective. That is the bit of it that you know most about.
And personally, we might survive because I have a job. I work in the Republic of Ireland as a vet.
Right.
And if we went bust, maybe I could support us. So.
Well, let's not jump off that bridge until we come to it. I can't see that being the solution. Albeit that I do have to point out that you're describing some of the, dare I say that I won't say the most sensible. I'll say the least insensible of the commentary that you've been encountering on social media, because Bernard Jenkin has gone all in on bringing back a customs barrier on the land border.
I was just driving over the land border when you said that, and I thought, oh my God, I actually do get anxiety attacks when I cross that border and imagine what it would be like. I would have to leave my family to continue my job. I wouldn't cross that twice a day to go to work. I would have to go to Donegal, stay there during the week, and maybe come home and visit them at the weekend. God. That's how terrifying it would be.
So, I'm struck by, I don't know if poetry is quite the right word, but the idea of you driving over the now non-existent land border that Bernard Jenkin is calling for a return of, you driving over it just as you heard on this programme.
Yes,
that's
and
what...
actually, it's a bridge with one lane of traffic.
So you'd need to have checkpoints at both ends of it. What would you say to Bernard Jenkin?
Very quick and...
The MP for Harwich and North Essex, who wants to bring back what you've just described in such clear terms.
See that Bernard Jenkins, the MP for Harwich and North Essex, saying things. That man doesn't. He doesn't. I'm not. Please don't think I'm being xenophobic, and I do try to be careful. Those of you that follow me on Twitter know that one of my genuine pet hates is, and I had this conversation with an English guy just the other day, actually in France. One of my pet hates is hearing the English accent talking about Northern Ireland in this way. What we need to do with Northern Ireland is this, that, no. Dude, you do not know. And it's not because I don't like you or whatever you would. It's just not your fucking business. Can you imagine if I'm sitting here, the MP for this place or the whatever, as unlikely and fanciful as that is, bear with me, thought experiment, and in my accent started saying, yes, what we need to do with Harwich and North Essex is make sure that there's more immigrants are allowed in on those small boats and do it, because, and what would the people of Harwich and North Essex say? And if there was 30 people like me constantly going on for years, what would this say with my accent? What would they have a favourable opinion of my accent? No, they would not, and I would not fucking blame them, as much as I don't with this myself. And it is a bugbear. It is a wee bugbear of mine. I just hate when you hear the next English Secretary of State comes in and starts talking, and like, you know they're not going to be here in a year. It's just a placeholder for them in their career. Something to go on to the old CV. So a couple of replies to that video, a phone call. Majority of people and political parties are in favour of the protocol. DUP, the TUV and loyalist bloggers care not a jot about these people. Couldn't agree more. This is the reality that the ordinary people don't realise, that the so-called Christian DUP, bitter, bigoted 21% minority grouping in Northern Ireland want to impose on the rest of the population. So on and so forth. So it's kind of hard to stomach that, isn't it? It is with me anyway. And here is the very latest on Twitter. I literally typed this in, or typed the search into the search bar, Northern Ireland Protocol, and this is it. And there is, now this is on GB News, so let me see if I can get that to play. Why is it? Oh no, it's not a video, that's why. Frost on the Northern Ireland Protocol. This is from the Guido Fawkes website. The core problem is the imposition of EU law in Northern Ireland without consent. And what did Professor Michael Dugan just teach us? What did he just tell us to say? What did he just tell us to say? That those points that we read through in the first Twitter thread, it's not EU law. It's EU requirements. It's British law. If it gets passed through the UK Parliament, it's British law. It's not EU law. EU's got its own single market. It's got its own rules. If you want to protect Northern Ireland because of its unique situation, here are some exceptions that we can make for Northern Ireland. It's British law. It's not EU law. So here's Femi. This is from yesterday. Oh, that's sort of not really Northern Ireland Protocol. Let me just scroll down just through this to see if I can see anything worth reading out to you. Oh, there's the DUP. Euronews inching towards conclusion. The Irish PM says the EU deal with UK over North is very close. As I just, that RTE headline that I read to you. Micheál Martin. Yeah. There's Boris Johnson. Dear Diary, seriously pissed off with Rishi over the Northern Ireland. If he pulls off the protocol thingy, then it looks like chump time for me. And the amazing thing is he's actually agitating in the background against Rishi Sunak trying to get this deal over the line, the majority of which of the deal was signed off by himself. He's now against what he set up. You can't make it up with these people. They don't care. And again, it's not, I don't use that word very often. I don't like to use that word because I'm not a particularly, I understand that it's a very emotive thing, but these people are traitors. I do genuinely believe that. All they care about is themselves, lining their own pockets. They don't care, and they use our ignorance and our lack of political education against us. There's James Cleverly, one of the most poorly named people in the British Parliament. Britain will not sign off on the Northern Ireland deal without the DUP backing. Right. So there. Okay. So there's that's the headline from that Reuters article. Britain will not sign off on the Northern Ireland deal without the DUP backing. That's James Cleverly saying that, right? Let's see. Remember this. I'm going to finish on that. Remember this. That he said that. Let's see. Britain will sign off on a deal. Right. I'm going to go. This is what James Cleverly says. Britain will not sign off on a deal without the DUP backing. Here's what I'm going to say. Britain will sign off a deal without DUP backing. DUP will backpedal. DUP will obfuscate. DUP will have their mouth stuffed full of gold, and they will eventually back this thing because it's going through one way or the other. And they can be on board or they can be without, and they will sell it to their own people. The problem with the real problem that they've got is they've got such little credibility left, even among their own population, their own voters, that it's going to be a hard sell. But they might be able to do it. They've managed to convince their own of far less and far worse in the past. So, yep. So there we go. Let me say, click latest there, see what if there's any. So this is seeing if this deal has gone through while I've been making this podcast. UK negotiators are prepared. No, same again. All the same. What did that one say? Let me go. Yeah. Ooh, there we go. So there's a wee update.
To continue talks with the Prime Minister over the Northern Ireland Protocol.
Breaking, it had been confirmed that the President of the European Commission will visit the UK tomorrow.
Will continue attempts to find practical solutions to...
So there we go. Yep. So that's the very latest, as of 5 o'clock, 5:20. Rishi Sunak to meet Urula Von Der Leyen tomorrow in London. Northern Ireland Protocol deal imminent. Etc, etc, etc. So there we go. Boom. Done. So there you go. Now you know all you need to know about the Northern Ireland Protocol. Where we are. Right up to date. Literally up to the fucking second. You can't get it. You can't get that anywhere else. So, yeah, it's good. Head over to the YouTube, subscribe, like, share, please. If you would share, I would really appreciate it. It's kind of essential. If it doesn't share, it doesn't grow. So we're going to call this. I might do another little quick blast on an update on that Ohio. I'll do it actually, you know what? I will. I'll do it now while I'm sitting here. The Ohio train thing, because it's kind of fascinating. Donald Trump turned up with bottles of water and shit. Didn't go down well. But at least he did turn up. The president didn't bother. And anyway, we'll get into it. Maybe, you know what? Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll just do a wee quick 10-minute extra thing here while I'm sitting here on updating all the recent podcasts and stuff that I've done about the Ukraine war, China, Russia, US, etc, etc. So we'll do that now. I'll tack on to the end of this.